Hey everyone, welcome to the Mel Carmine Show. I'm your host, Elisa V, and we've got a great show today. We've got Larry Ballard back with us and for an unfiltered discussion about Trump's trade agenda. Before we begin, just want to touch on a couple of items. Every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, we've got a wonderful live roundtable featuring Mel, myself, Mike Barra, and Laura Eisenhower. We want to remind you to tune in for that. If you aren't able to make it live, it's always recorded, and you can find that on Rumble at XRPQFSTeam, as well as on X at Elisa M. Valentino, and on YouTube live at Elisa V Unscripted. We really love your support, guys. We want you to know how much we love having you tune in for our shows. And please don't forget about our amazing sponsors, which you can find in the description box here and on Elisa V Unscripted on YouTube. And without further ado, I want to welcome you back, Larry. How have you been?
But before we get started, folks, make sure you hit the pause button. Okay, go down below. There's a Rumble link. Go over to Rumble and follow us over there. QFS1776.com is, without question, the holy grail of what's to come. Okay, T-shirts. You got to get yourself decorated. This way people will ask you, what is XRP? What is the quantum financial system? What is this? What is that? And you send them where? To QFS1776.com, where they need to immerse themselves, because we're going to burn down this system down to the ground. And out of the ashes will rise the phoenix. There'll be nothing to go back to. Believe me when I tell you that. Also, our Telegram groups down below. If you want to learn what's coming and you're sort of a little scared, I understand. Believe me, I was there too at one point. And if you need more than $10,000 worth of XRP or $1 million worth of XRP, you come see me. Send me an email at QFS1776@gmail, and we'll get you as much as you want. Gold and silver. Welcome to Carmine'sGold.com. Don't waste not even a second looking. Cheaper prices just don't exist. How important is it for you to own gold and silver right now? What does it mean to me personally? There's an economy that's about to crash beyond what words can explain. In 5 words, I'm going to educate you on gold and silver. Are you ready? You need to own some. Simple.
Hey guys, Elisa V here. As life changes and shifts, it forces us to work through challenging transitions, whether it's divorce, retirement, empty nest, job career shifts, or any other life change. Taking action and moving forward works with 3 basic things: understanding support during the emotional upheaval, mentoring and guidance for defining new goals, and gentle accountability to foster outcome and achievement. Now, I am a life transition coach, as many of you know, and I invite you to set up a strategy call if you're having any kind of life transition or change right now that you need some support with. Contact my assistant, Jane, at info.hittingtherestartbutton@gmail.com, and she'll set you up with a free strategy call so we can chat and see how I can be there for you during this difficult time. I look forward to hearing from you.
I've been very good. I didn't get to go to that conference you went to, so I'm jealous, but other than that, I'm just fine.
Yeah, it was nice. I'll tell you, the number one part about it that was so nice was being in Miami, coming from New York. I mean, the weather, we had great weather. It was just perfect. I mean, yeah, Florida's great this time of year, so it was fun. But there was some wonderful speakers and great information. And those events, for anybody who hasn't been to them, as you can attest to, Larry, it's just nice to be around like-minded people, people that understand all the things we talk about, and it kind of takes everything to the next level, right? Because we're all looking for the truth. We're all trying to figure out, how we make this country better, how we live better, and being at those events really does give us an opportunity to kind of get out of our environment and be with people that kind of challenge us and bring us to another level. So I want to remind everyone that, we did a prior podcast called Understanding Trump's Trade Agenda. And in that podcast, if you haven't yet seen it, I strongly suggest that you watch it. It's kind of like a little bit of a I guess, a foundation or a launching pad for some of the things we're going to talk about today. And we focused on tariffs, starting with the basics. What are tariffs? A little bit of the history in our country of tariffs and how they affect the US economy and why Trump is bringing our country back to them. And today, I'd love to take that discussion to the next step and dig a little deeper to discuss what is behind the strategy that Trump has with tariffs. And I want to ask you, Larry, just to kind of kick it off, like my overarching question is, and it might be a loaded question, but will there be some negative effects before we reap the benefits as a nation and for businesses in what this agenda is right now?
Of course not. Oh, wait a minute. That was a lie. Yes, there will be some negative effects. Of course there will. So, but I'm going to make this answer real quick. Basically, the news media is focusing on one thing, the word tariff, and any negative connotations that come from it. And the one that they push is, oh, you're going to be paying more at the grocery store. You're going to be paying more for products that are shipped in the United States. That's true. And there's going to be some vacillations up and down in the stock market. And there's going to be some people that are getting laid off of work. But let's look at what this is really all about. This is about something very important. America has now $27 trillion national debt, and we're coming up for a substantial portion of it to be refinanced this year. We have to get control of our economy. That's where Doge is coming in and trying to cut costs long term so we can stop that trillion to $2 trillion addition to our national debt every single solitary year. And the way we do that is we have to get control of trade, and we have to understand that Donald Trump's trade policies are not what you think. It's just a lever to get what he needs in order to save our society from a financial collapse. That's what this is all about. So that's where we're going to go today. We're going to get away from the superficial stuff, and we're going to find out why is America in such trouble, and is the man I call a genius going to be able to pull us out of it. I hope
Yeah,
that
and
answers your question.
it totally does. And I think what we all have to realize, at least this is what I've come to realize, is that you can't get to a new place. I don't care if it's as a country, I don't care if it's your own personal growth, right? You're always going to have to go through a difficult time, or you're going to have to go through those bumps in the road, and it's not fun and it's not pretty. And whether it's going through a personal crisis or, as we're in right now, a crisis in our nation, people can't just expect that you're going to snap your finger, flip a switch, and everything's going to be okay. We're in a situation right now that we really can't sustain, and it's going to be far worse if we don't make those changes. But with those changes, as you're saying, things are going to be difficult for a while, because we're looking to get to the other side, where then we're all going to be in a much better position. So why don't we just jump right into, like, tell us a little bit more, like, what is behind Trump's terror strategy?
Well, the bottom line is he wants to save the economy from collapsing. That's the big thing. So, what's that entail? I bet you anybody who watches your show is going to know what I'm talking about when I say this. We're basically looking at a global financial elite system that's controlled us for the entire history of America. And you talk about no pain, no gain. An entity powerful enough to control the entire world, to control every sovereign nation of the world to the point that they're no longer sovereign, is pretty darn powerful. To take them down is no little task, right? So there's going to be more than a little pain. There's going to be a lot of pain. But here's the thing. We're like a human being laying on a beach, and we've got a 75-pound rock laying right on our chest. Oh, I can't hardly breathe. That's what we're in. That's what we're under. And that's what's going to get removed. All the regulations that are stifling us, the financial debt that's burdening us, everything that makes us feel like we have no hope is all going to have to be released. But it's going to be very, very, very painful. But the result at the bottom of it, at the end, is absolutely, absolutely worth it. Now, I don't know where you want to go from here. Do you want to go into detail, or where do you want to go at this point? I'm kind of giving you a superficial answer to your question. What do you
No, I
want to,
want to
what
go
do you want
into
to do?
detail. I want to go into
Okay.
detail. You know, my hope is too, like kind of a little bit of an appeal to those people who are watching and who get it. We're also trying to educate the people that don't get it with these shows. And so we really do suggest that you share, you share these things because sometimes it's difficult when we get knowledge and we understand things and then we try to tell people and we're not experts. So that's why I have you on. You're an expert. You can help to break this all down. And it's a lot easier to share a video like this with someone and say, hey, listen, I don't know if you're aware of what's really going on, but I think this video can unpack it a little bit and explain it and get into some of the reasons. And that's how we start to educate and kind of wake people up to what a lot of the realities are rather than all the fear porn that you're constantly seeing on mainstream TV, that life is just going to fall apart with tariffs and, it's the end of our country. So let's get into the
Okay.
details.
Here's how I'm going to break your question down then. I want you to think of a picture. I got a big old stick over here, a club, and I got a carrot over here. And I'm going to basically roll this out in that analogy. Basically, Trump has to beat people over the head to get what he wants, but to get what he wants, he has to give them something they want. So that's what this is about. What is he going to be able to do to get what he wants? And what is he going to have to give to get the other people to join him? So that there's a little pain on their side, there's a little pain on our side, but he has to convince them at the end, we all win. So let's start with, what does Trump want? And when we do this, I want to encourage you to stop me at any point. I'm just going to give off the top of my head a list of generic things he wants, but I want you to be thinking about this. I think we did this in the last show. I talked about 3 nations that were going to come on top of this when it's all over with, because they were all nations, speaking of the Bible, that there's a saying, that a verse that says, those that shall be first shall be last, and those that shall be last shall be first. So as we restructure the entire global structure of the world, here's the 3 nations that are going to come out on top. So think about these and think about friendly nations and adversarial nations, and then we can go deeper. So basically, America is going to get back the control that it used to have before we ceded it to China during the Carter administration. And we were at one time what? We were a colony of the global elite, right, of the British Empire. And then we just did a huge deal with who? India. And what happened as a result of that? This is all about controlling our currency, because what Donald Trump is doing right now, what's his big club? It's leverage over what? What is it leverage over? It's leverage over control of the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. But right now it's just the sole reserve currency. We're going to come out of this as the sole reserve currency. We're going to come out of it as the primary principal reserve currency. So to survive this and not come out on the dark side, we have to maintain control of that currency. That's our lever. That's our big stick. So why did he go to India, who was also a colony, who's also going to end up on the top? And the third nation or country, this continent that's going to end up on top, is Africa, that was also a colony. So when you think of your questions, think about those 3, and then think about the 3 or 4 biggest adversaries we have. So what did Trump offer to India? He offered to help them have security first and foremost. They're hemmed in by all the activities of the Chinese military, and a trade alliance with the most powerful nation in the world with preferred access. Now, what did Trump get? Modi, I'd like you to do me a little favor, if you wouldn't mind. I'd like you to back out of BRICS, because, BRICS is causing me a little bit of a problem. He says, to come out of this the way I want to come out of it, I have to maintain basically leverage in the world monetary market, and I need to retain 60% of all the GDP in the world transacted in US dollars. Can you help me with that? Done. You give me what I want, I'll give you what you want. Basically, tit for tat. So everybody thinks Trump is so bombastic. He asks for things that are crazy. And then he bounces off of that and he goes to Canada, he goes to Greenland, he goes to Mexico, he goes to Panama Canal, he goes to Suez, because those all relate to something he wants. Those all relate to individual companies, countries, and something he wants and what he's negotiating with them. So his strategy differs with every single nation in the world, depending on what they have that he wants and what they want that we can give them. So basically, that's how this structure rolls out. It's tit for tat. I give you something, you give me something, and we become partners. So this thing with BRICS was huge because China is absolutely falling. Do you know that they have right now with the students, with the rapid unemployment, and they won't even tell you what the statistics are right now. There's not 1 million, but 100 million person protests going on in China. And did you know what happened with Taiwan? This is all part of that leverage that we're talking about. There's 100,000 person protests going on in Taiwan. So what happened? They rattled the cage, brought all the military out, surrounded Taiwan, and said, "This is what we can do to you." And the president of Taiwan knuckled under, and she said, "Okay, we won't join China, but we'll do a really good trade deal with you." And the people said, "That'll kill our economy." And so they're protesting. And then over in Hong Kong, they're protesting. And I just love this when I found this graphic. The people were, I don't know how many there were, but it was a large group. And then a small group of them left that group and went to the US consulate. And I was so proud of Trump because his influence had reached around the world. They had this giant banner. It must have been 10 foot wide. And it was a picture of Trump. And it said, "Thank you, Mr. Trump." Mr. Trump is standing up for freedom and prosperity for the world. And China represents what? This is his biggest leverage of all. If the world, so let me give you an example of how this broke down. So Xi, in his arrogance, says, "I am issuing a warning to the world. Any nation that sides with America and as a result of any trade deal they do in any way harms America, we'll get you. We'll get you." And then he comes out and says, "We're going to isolate America because remember, we're the manufacturing factory of the world." Are they? Factories are leaving by droves and bounds. Investment is going down, and because of the rampant unemployment and the real estate collapse, the domestics don't have any money, so they don't have anything to offer the world except what? Suppression. So what they want to give us is versus what Trump wants to give us. And now you be a dignitary listening to this pitch. I'm going in and I'm pitching Trump's deal right now. "Oh, you know what? You can stay with China and you can get your cheap goods from them, and that's fine. But if they win this reset, because that's what this is really all about, then you're going to get facial recognition, a social credit score, the ability to be arrested at any time. And if you open your little mouth and say anything that we don't like, we will affect your credit score. And if we blacklist you, basically is what it is, guess what? You can't have a job. You can't travel. You can't bank. You basically become homeless. So if you want that, go ahead. Be my guest. I think they're listening to me. Now I say, well, if you come over here, you'll have freedom. You'll have access to the largest trading market in the entire world, and you'll have the protection and security of the United States of America. Need I go on? So that's what Trump is doing, nation after nation, all over the world. Each one that he goes to has a different agenda. So we can make this make more sense to us if we want, by you just bring up some countries and ask me, well, what do you think Trump's strategy is on Canada or Mexico or Russia or China or anybody? And I think it will bring clarity to the people as to, well, what's the man really doing? And is he going to win? And then before I let you answer that or chime in, I want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
There's probably skepticism as to whether he can pull this off, because remember now, China has had the position for 70 years of being the factory of the world. Well, what was their leverage? It's always about leverage. We have the biggest workforce in the world, the cheapest workforce in the world. And so they want to come here. They've lost that. They no longer have the biggest workforce. Their population is aging, and the surrounding countries around them, they now have cheaper labor rates than China does, and they were unable to sustain the global supply chain. So manufacturers said, we simply can't afford to do business with them. We have to go elsewhere. So basically, that's what is happening and what you get if you go to China. If you come with us, you get security, you get access to the market. China's domestic market is gone. The investment is gone. They're ripe now for literally a political coup from the masses, et cetera, et cetera. So here's the thing. You think that China is invincible? No. You think America can't take trade away from them? Well, let me tell you what. I just outlined why they're so weak, and guess how we take them? Basically, one of the representatives from his cabinet said, we're going to have virtually free energy. And with that, with the nanites, with the robots, with the AI, labor costs aren't a factor anymore. So we are going to have the biggest productivity gains the world has ever seen, and we're going to do it without worrying about labor cost. So that the lock that locked us down and kept us in slavery has just been broken wide open. Labor is no longer a factor. Productivity gains. I'll give you an example of what I call a productivity gain.
Mm-hmm.
When I was doing my research, there was a rocket engine that was recently designed. Took 2 weeks. Normally would take a year and a team of people. They basically used AI to design it. They used 3D printing to print it, and then they tested it, and by golly, the thing worked. We're going to bring products to the market that are so innovative you can't imagine. We're going to do it so fast you can't imagine. And we have a repository of 6,000 patents that have been suppressed here. China doesn't have that. So now go ahead and take me anywhere you want to take me.
All right. So first of all, I think we could agree that all of these different aspects of what we're talking about right now, whether it's the change in the global economy, whether it has to do with, like you said, the 6,000 patents that have been suppressed. I mean, I think we could clearly see that this is all very much Nasara Jasara, right? And they're not going to just come out and say, oh, we're going to
Which is the reset, right?
It's going to be these little things that if you're smart enough and aware enough and educated enough to know, you're going to know that all of these things, including Doge, right? Which I know Mel always, refers to, instead of the Department of Government Efficiency, he calls it the Department of Jasara, which essentially is very much what they're kind of doing. So what I want to kind of talk about is, let's just we spoke about the tariffs. We spoke about what Trump is doing, which, by the way, the way you describe it is that he's essentially going to, like you said, nation by nation, because each nation has their own things that they want, or the leverage that we could find. It's not a global thing, right? It's not one size fits all. So Trump is the master of deal making and understanding how to make people offers that they can't refuse, if we want to kind of use that little analogy from The Godfather. But he is, because he understands economy and he understands what's necessary to make things productive. So let's just talk about from the flip side. And I want to pull up one of your slides because I think it's relevant. I want to talk about how the tariffs will hurt or help the United States. So I am going to share, if you give me 1 second, I want to pull this up. Hey, Elisa V here. We all know that legal matters can be costly and stressful. Finding the right representation and dealing with high retainers and hourly bills adds up fast. But what if I told you there's a way to have legal insurance just like your health or car insurance? LegalShield has leveled the playing field. From just $29.95 a month, you get access to lawyers for personal legal matters. From traffic tickets to real estate issues or trust matters, help is just a tap away on your phone. Call or text 516-493-1742 and use code Elisa Legal to start your journey to legal protection today. Okay. You able to see that slide, Larry?
Yep.
Hope everybody can see.
All right, so I'll chime in and then you insert yourself wherever you want. So I'm actually going to read portions of this. The following things must happen for America to prosper, and here's the key, and in turn help the world. So basically, the global financial elite that are pushing for that other set of resets, they hoard things, they suppress things, they control all the necessities of life, and they basically make us their slaves. Well, in the Industrial Revolution that we had after the Civil War, we developed technology. And just like what we're going to do now, we had infrastructure. That's one of the things that Trump can offer to other nations, and security. And as a result, we became the wealthiest nation in the world. So the first 3 or 4 things on here are the things that are going to hurt you, the things that people are protesting about, the things that the news covers And then when we get about halfway down, you never hear about any of the rest of these. So the things that are going to give you the pain, no gain, Doge layoffs will increase unemployment. But we got to have it because we got to find the waste and fraud. And guess what else is in Doge that people don't think about? What do they say? Follow the money trail.
Yeah.
Well, as he's uncovering the waste and the fraud, he's following where it starts from and where it ends. And what that's going to take us to is a situation where we're going to find out all the people who we think are on our side, but are on the enemy side. And that's going to result in leverage that's going to bring out more whistleblowers that you can shake a stick at and open America's eyes up and the world's eyes up like they've never been opened. So that's for so there's a little good and a little bad in Doge. Let's go on. Tariffs will cause the economy to slow down. Is that a bad thing? Short term. But in the long term, when you find out what Trump's endgame is, you're going to find that that's actually essential to saving America from financial collapse. So what's the third one? Inflation will slow down. Now, that sounds like a good thing. And it is, but there's an end purpose to it that most people don't think. So what we're really tracking towards on Trump's side starts with the next point. Trump will push the Fed to lower interest rates. So to do that, he has to create a soft crash of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where BRICS comes in and China's leverage comes in. So let me take a digression here and explain how that works. So basically, these things are going to cause layoffs. They're going to cause prices to go up. They're going to cause pain. They're going to cause the economy to slow down. They're going to cause, hopefully, him to be able to have the opportunity to pressure the Fed to lower interest rates. Now, why is that so important? What does that have to do with this conversation? Because we have a huge amount of our national debt that's going to be refinanced, and we had it at very, very low rates. It's going to double, triple. I don't know where it's going to go, but it's going to basically, I believe, be enough of a shock to the economic system that it will cause a catastrophic financial collapse if we don't do something to prepare for it. So what's it all about? His tariff strategy is pushing us to slow down the economy and to get the Fed to make a reduction in interest rates. And Bank of America, they're pretty big. I don't know if they're number 1, 2, 3, or 4, but they're in there. Well, they made an announcement. They're making provision for 4 rate cuts this year. So I think they have a pretty good insider's insight as to what the Fed's going to do. That's the first plateau we've got to achieve. We've got to put enough pressure on the economy that we can get the Fed to lower rates. So what is Trump? He's the master of, what did he do probably half a dozen times in his career? I'm declaring bankruptcy. And he comes out of it better off every time, right?
Right.
Well, there's different kinds of bankruptcies. It ain't going to be a bankruptcy of Chapter 11. It's going to be a Chapter 13 that sees America come out with this, where Ferrari engine, having been replaced, that old Chevy is gone, and the Ferrari is there, and the engine's ready to go, and we got the economy primed to go to the moon. That's what this man is trying to do, save our economy. And then once we become financially solvent, once we have the technologies that bring up that productivity, we'll share it with the world. And what's his end game? To create equity between nations, parity between nations, financial stability around the world. And what does that trigger? Peace and prosperity. Because Eisenhower said, people, watch that industrial military complex. He said, is there any man, any woman, any child that doesn't understand that inequity between nations is the principal cause of wars in an industrial society? So that's another key part of what he's doing. He's going to leverage against all those things that bring us into wars. And what are the 2 things that keep us most financially collapsed? The debt trap that's created by the central bank and the ongoing perpetual wars. He's going to get rid of them. I think you started to say something, so let me shut up and let you chime in.
No, what I was going to say is that the strategy, right, the brilliance of Trump and those that he surrounds himself with is such that the news and the politicians, they focus on like today, and everybody has mindset that, we need immediate gratification and we have to feel good right away, right? Well, you're not going to turn your body into an amazing machine by not going to the gym. and not being in pain, and your muscles aren't going to hurt, and you're going to, right? I mean, it's like you said, no pain, no gain. Well, it's the same thing with what he's doing with the economy. And so while all the naysayers are carrying on about what's happening right now, he is, so many steps ahead looking at where we want to be. And that's the message that people have to really understand. This isn't just he's not doing this for today. He's doing this for the long-term effects, for the benefit of us here in this country. But like you said, when everyone around the world and all nations are prosperous and people aren't starving and people aren't at their wits' end with everything, no one's going to fight anymore, and we're all going to be able to live really peacefully. So that I just wanted to kind of put an exclamation point on what you were saying.
And we'll be out of the debt trap.
Yes.
So let's go back to the slide and get through this. Then we can go anywhere else you want to go. So basically, we're at where the U.S. will attract investment, especially if what? Trump cuts the taxes permanently. So the Democrats are trying to push against. He had a tax cut, the largest one by any president in modern times in his first term. It's up for renewal. The Democrats are trying to keep it from being renewed. But in that very questionable environment, he's already painted a picture that has said, quote, companies and countries around the world felt confident enough that he was going to win, that they've invested $4 trillion in U.S. infrastructure. That's amazing under the current situation. So he's got a table. He's, I'm going to fix this, and this. And you're going to be able to see America grow. We're going to do exactly everything that China did, but on steroids. So that's what's coming. And we're going to basically be able to flip this economy around, get out from under the debt trap. And I want to show you what the narrative of the media is versus what the reality is. The bits of Ballard don't use any of these other words, just use the word tariff and call tariff a tax. So we're going to pay a little bit more for goods at the grocery store for a few months. Now, on the other hand, with what Trump's going to do when he stabilizes the economy is he's going to be able to, when we get not $4 trillion, but $20 trillion in investment, and when we become where does the wealth of a nation come from? It all starts with natural resources. So what's one of the things he's doing? He's negotiating mineral deals. Then goes to manufacturing capability. So he's basically saying, if you can have a choice here again, you can not work with me, and I'll charge you really high tariffs, and you see how you like that. Or you can come over here, invest in America, and build your products here, and you'll have the lowest taxes in the world, and you won't have any tariffs. So it's up to you. Just do whatever you want to do. But I think that's a pretty fair deal. So basically, he's getting people. Now, all he has to do is submit it by saying, now, you don't have to worry about this going away in 4 years if I'm not here. The tax cuts are permanent. And now people can look out and say, America, the largest economy in the world, America, all that technology that they can bring to bear, America that can provide us security, America that can bring us into the arms of a giant trade agreement where everybody is cooperating and give us a pool to half of the world for our products. Okay, we want to be within America. Now, let's contrast that to China. So what just happened to China? China was trying to leverage our dollar so that they could collapse it abruptly instead of having that soft collapse that we wanted to have, that Trump intends to have. And so basically, she said, if you go with China, you're going to pay repercussions. And China, and basically the strongest nation in BRICS, other than China, was India, and they've pulled out. That stopped all the momentum of BRICS. That means that if you got any insights at all in your mind, you see that Trump just flipped a switch that killed the momentum of BRICS, which was intended to kill the dollar. He's now in control of the global financial system. So the future is bright, and that's what those investors are seeing. Now all he's got to do is give them a long-term guarantee that the tax cuts are going to be kept in place. So let's go on down. We've only got a couple more to go. So factories. One reason they haven't wanted to come here is because the people on the blue side of the aisle have inflicted us with hundreds, maybe thousands of regulations. Oh, you want to come here and build a factory? Well, we can go to China and build it tomorrow. Well, if you come here, we got such good news for you. We'll probably be able to get your permits issued in at least 10 years. And Trump says, anybody who gives me $1 billion or more, I'll tell you what, 90 days, you'll get your permits and you'll be building your factory, and we'll be providing you with everything that you need to be as financially stable as you can imagine. So look at the leverage he's got. Look at what he can offer people. Let me go down. And U.S. will innovate technology. That's those 6,000 patents. And a big kicker is, let's go to China and let's go to us. So if you're dealing with China, you can expect to have your your intellectual property stolen. You can expect to have your deals maybe not honored. You can expect to basically get the short end of the stick every time. And now Trump just did something else that he understood needs to be done. So the world has been looking at control from the colonial era and what they did, and from China. And China was just a puppet of the colonists, so who run the world, the global financial elite. Trump just did something that made the world pay attention, or at least the world leaders pay attention. The Democratic Republic of Congo. So let me break this down for you.
Do we still need the slide up, Larry? Can I
No, we don't. We don't.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
take it down. So the Democratic Republic of Congo. So basically, Africa is the treasure trove of the world going forward. They got more minerals than anybody in the world, but they don't have infrastructure. They don't have security. They have constant rebel fights going on, and basically their economy's been held down. So what do they know? They know, going back to that colonial area, that the British and the global financial elite kept them in poverty forever, and every deal they ever did was one-sided. So one of the deals that was recently turned down by an Africa that's learning they have some leverage now. Oh, we want to get control of your iron, and you just dig that stuff out of the ground and ship it to us, and you'll make $7 a ton. But you guys over in Europe will make $700 a ton. And Africa said, that ain't no deal. Nope, they turned it down. And then they looked to where? Did they look to China? No, China's Belt and Road Initiative at one point had 90% of all the countries in Africa. Now there's hardly one left, because what were they? A debt trap that screwed them. So they can't look to Europe. They can't look to China. There's only two nations in the world that they can look to for help, to modernize, to get infrastructures, to get security. And one of them is vastly more powerful than the other. So one is India. India will come in and do some deals in Africa, and they're going to become very powerful as a result of transfer of wealth and manufacturing from China to them. That's not going to go just to them or to us. It's going to be distributed around the world in deglobalization. But what did Trump just do? I mean, trying to unravel his strategies as they're breaking day by day. So the Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, has been working with China for a long time, and they've got a lot of mineral deals in the Congo. So when there was a deal struck with a European nation to come in and get rebels to come in and take over a part of the Congo where their natural resources were, they overwhelmed them so much that a city of 2 million people fell in days, and they were going to the capital. Did they pick up the phone and call China? No, they knew they were part of the global elite. They picked up the phone and called Donald J. Trump. And this is one of the most important things you'll ever hear in your life, folks. Here's what happened. His advisor says, stay out of it, Trump. Stay out of it. Let those rebels do what? Order out of chaos. That's what the global financial elite want. He said, nope. He says, I'm looking at the long-term picture. He said, we're going to do something for the world that ain't never been done before. What's that? We're going to give him a fair deal. So here's what he did. He says, you know what? Look over at Saudi Arabia. They're pretty successful right now. They came to us and we wanted their oil, and they wanted our national security and our infrastructure and our technology and so forth. And we gave it to them. And now they're one of the wealthiest nations in the world. So here's what old Trump said to the president of Congo. You know, there's a railroad that is half finished. It goes to nowhere. It does you absolutely no good. We'll finish that sucker for you, and we'll take it all the way to the ocean and get you to a seaport so you can take your natural resources to the rest of the world. How would that suit you? And you know what? When China does those deals, what do? They come in and you have to use their people, and they have to build it. And all the money goes back to China. And oh, did you know this? In what's the name of the company? They built a building. It's like the UN of Africa. And 5 years into it, they found out that the Chinese workers who built it put listening devices in so they knew what all of Africa was doing. They snooped on every major decision they made. So maybe they don't feel too comfortable about working with China, right? So back to America and what Trump can offer. So he says, we'll give you that infrastructure. We'll give you national security. We'll end that war just like that. So he didn't go, and you didn't see any fighting. You know what he did? He picked up his telephone, or had people pick up his telephone, and he says, you know what? Hey, Europe, stay out of it. Hey, we're going to use leverage. And you rebels, you're done. And basically, just a couple of days ago, they got together and signed an agreement. And we now have a deal with the Democratic Republic of Congo to provide them national security, to provide them technology, to bring American firms in, build the infrastructure, but also train the people so that all along the way, they're becoming what? Self-sufficient.
Self-sufficient.
We're going to get a deal. We're going to make money. They're going to make money. And now here's what I see. Those people are not stupid. They look around, they saw what Europe did to them. They look at, see what China did to them. They look and see what India has to offer, which is something. And they say the best deal in town is from America. America is the only one that could really secure our future. And so here's what I predict. You cannot have economic stability. People don't understand this. It's so simple. It's just like that. If you want to be one of the leading superpowers of the world, you have to do four things. You have to have an abundant supply of natural resources. Greenland, think of Greenland, think of the deal in Ukraine, think of the deal in the Congo. So what's going to happen? Once he carries out and keeps his promise in the Congo, I'll guarantee you virtually every country in Africa is going to come knocking at the door and say, Mr. Trump, can you do that for us?
Absolutely.
And Africa is going to go, shh, and America is going to go, shh, and the rest of the world is going to wish we had signed it with Donald J. Trump.
Yeah.
So let me stop there. But that's the magnitude of what this man is doing. He's flipping the entire strategy of the global financial elite upside down, dumping it out on the ground and walking all over it and turning it into garbage. And he's about to make America once again great and greater than it ever was. And in the process, he's going to raise India. He's going to raise America. He's going to raise Africa. And he's going to help nations all around the world. We will no longer live in a debt trap. We will no longer wonder, why can't we buy a house? I'll tell you a personal story. My son has a college degree. He was in the military for 12 years. He's bright, brilliant. And he says, Dad, I can't even afford to buy a house. He says, I have 4 kids. He says, my wife works, I work, but by the time I pay health insurance and yada, 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 yada. And so what's he reflect? He reflects the hopelessness of a whole generation of people who've lost the American dream because they've kept us in such financial distress that we just have no future. And that's what's happening in China, except it's 10 times worse. That's why 100 million people are in China revolting and bringing up all kinds of issues. And dare I say it, one of the things they have said is, we want democracy and we want J.C. Ping to step down. So now let's think of all the rest of those nations in the world. Do they want to go under communism or do they want to go under democracy? So here's the prediction I'm going to make. I can do a whole story on why China's falling and why Russia's falling and why God is not going to let any communist nation rule the world going forward into this era we're going into that's going to give peace and prosperity to the world and the harvest of souls. The only option left for the whole world is America. You want to be under that umbrella. You want to be with a nation whose people have a heart and who reached out when they originally became wealthy and helped the rest of the world. So let me stop and let you take me anywhere you want to go.
So I want to add to that, and maybe this sounds crazy, but we have to remember that here in America, right? Like less Donald Trump and the patriots and the people who wanted to take us out of this debt system, we too were run by the elites, right? I mean
Absolutely.
the whole Federal Reserve System and the debt system that they've put us in. And so I think it's fair, and you correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think it's fair that when we look at some of these other nations, particularly China, where we're saying China as a total, but really it's the same thing over there. Who are the elites that have been running that country as well? Okay. And
all the nations of the world have lost their sovereignty and are run by the global
Yes.
financial elite. Go ahead.
Yes, yes. And that's a very important point for people to realize, because I think what happens sometimes is that people get stuck in the weeds of things, and they're not seeing that there's an infrastructure, an evil infrastructure, bigger and more invisible than we actually see. So when we look at what Trump is doing, and he's saying the US dollar, he's really not talking about the US dollar that we've all known. He's not talking about the Federal Reserve elite system of what our
No.
money is. He's bringing us into a new system that, yes, the US will lead, but it's not that same US Federal Reserve dollar that we've all, come to think of as our money. And the other thing I see, and I see this in a more like bigger picture, I tend to wonder how bad, I'm going to say it, but how bad Xi Jinping really is, or is he playing a role because of what China always represented? And is he really behind the scenes working with Trump because he sees the big picture too of what needs to happen? And knowing that if America succeeds, right, we've got Make America Great Again, we really are working towards make the world better again, because that's the ultimate goal in all of this. So
Trump answered your question a few days ago, but go ahead. I'll give you that in a minute. Keep
yeah, and
going.
so you've got guys who are sort of playing roles, for lack of a better word, because
Mhm.
for the good of the world, and these are really good guys, and they're taking on a role that maybe the world looks at them as evil, but they don't really care, because they really do care about their people, and they do care about the
Mhm.
fact that the world has to be a better place. So I think the role that Trump has, and I'm not taking anything away from that, because he's a brilliant strategist and so much more, but he's got some wonderful partners in all this who are helping worldwide to make this all happen, and to give the United States, via under the Trump umbrella, the ability to make these deals, and to give people that, or I should say governments, maybe give them that very polar opposite view. Do you want to be here, or do you want to be here? And
Mhm.
obviously, when they choose to be with America and with Trump and with our agenda, well, maybe the Chinese are, and I say the Chinese, I'm talking about the government, not obviously the wonderful people of China, but okay, so I'll play the bad guy so that we can get these nations to see, because it's a lot easier for them to see this in a
Mhm.
very polarized view than to, try to explain what's really going on. And in the end, we're going to see a world, right? We look at how raped, in every sense of the word, Africa has been, through the centuries, and how much natural resources they have, and they should not have the poverty and the awful way of living that they do, right? But because of the power of the elites and the structure that's been in place, they've suffered. The people have suffered. They've been, as nations, they've been taken advantage of. So I think there's a lot more than anybody is going to, really, unless you sit and really analyze the situation. And, with Trump, we're always talking about, the art of war, and you're never going to give away what your secrets are, and he said that a long time ago, right out.
Mhm.
He said, I will never say what our military or what any of our other, strategies are out loud, because we have to make these things happen, and happen for the benefit. So I just wanted to add that, because I just don't, to a lot of people, it has to be very cut and dry, because that's how they understand something. And you need to have a face. You need to have the face of good and the face of evil for people to kind of understand. But I think as people who delve and research and look at things and ask, deeper questions, it's important to let people start to use their minds to say, you know what, there's more going on than we really know. And in the end, this is really a war of good against evil, to bring us
Mhm.
and, ascend to the place where our earth and all its people are supposed to be prospering and living wonderful lives.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a very cogent comment, and I think we'll digress a little bit, and I'm going to break it down. So the US dollar is nothing but a debt trap. So the dollar has to die. That's that collapse that Trump has to orchestrate, but it needs to be a soft collapse. So the US dollar is gone. And along with it, the IRS is gone. Along with it, personal property tax is gone. And now I want you to think about how your situation just changed. Over here on the bad side, early on, you're going to pay a little bit more for the things you buy at the store. But over here, we're going to, within the next few years, we're going to get out from under completely all the national debt. We're not going to have the Federal Reserve, that's 35% of your income in your pocket right off the bat, because you're not going to have to pay that. And then you're not going to have to pay personal property tax, add that into the equation. And then we're going to have energy that's going to raise productivity, that's going to lower the cost of everything you buy by 30, 40, 50, 60%. So now what do we got? We probably got a 70 or 80% reduction in overall cost to weigh against to make our lives better, a short-term increase in retail goods. You tell me what looks more attractive. Now, here's
Exactly.
how. Go
And
ahead.
Larry, just to add to that, and that doesn't include the unlawfulness of what we've been dealing with in the form of mortgages and interest and all of that, which is going to be further saving people money to live more prosperous. So go ahead.
So we're going to have, as Trump says, we're going to have more money than we can think of. We're going to get tired of winning, winning, winning. So let's look at the financial system. We know what it is. It's just a debt trap. Every dollar that's printed creates more national debt for us. It takes to the point where now we can't pay for it with just the Federal Reserve. So now they have to raise all the other taxes. That's why that fight's going on over Trump wanting to cut the taxes. But now let's find out what his soft landing looks like. He basically lets the dollar decline, become less in value, negotiates a deal where we can refinance at a lower price for the short term until he can pay the debt off. And then how's he going to do it? Oh, China had the golden key and they threw it away. The golden key relates to cryptocurrencies. And China, at one point in time, mined 60% of all the Bitcoin, and they booted it out. Why? Because they didn't want a decentralized economy that they couldn't control. So they couldn't tell you, you can't work, you can't do anything, whatever,
Right.
you can't travel. So here's what Trump did. He says, hey, all you guys over there, come over here. We're going to make America the Bitcoin capital of the world. We're going to make America the crypto capital of the world. We're going to come out and we're going to give you something that's valuable. We're going to give you a reserve currency in the form of Bitcoin so that when we borrow money going forward, guess what? There's two different kinds of loans. There's unsecured loans with really high interest rates, and then secured loans with low interest rates. So the loan borrowing we'll do in the future will be secured at low rates. And then what's he going to do? Then he's going to basically get the inefficient SWIFT out and bring in cryptos and use XRP. And now he's positioned himself through having the Bitcoin stable reserve, then having XRP, and then basically, I'm losing the point here, backing our whole financial system, not with a promise, but with what? With the cryptocurrencies, with gold, with silver, and a whole basket of commodities, so that we don't be able to do what we do now. We can't cause inflation, we can't cause deflation, we can't cause job wage suppression, we can't cause financial collapse. We'll have a steady state economy based on God's economic system where things have value and things that have value can't be manipulated. And so we're going to get out from under debt, and we're going to have a steady state economy, and we're going to have so much money that we will think twice about doing what? Let's all get together, the whole world. You know, that ocean is dying. Let's get together and spend a whole bunch of money and let's fix the earth. And, you know, let's get together and let's really put out the things that need to be done to clean the earth and the climate. And we won't think a thing about it because we'll be so flush with money, it'll be nothing. So we're going to move into a period where instead of intentionally killing us, creating genocide, killing the planet, we're going to pool our sources together and say, we've now realized that we're God's creatures, and we have realized to harm another is to harm ourselves, and we're all going to cooperate. And it's not going to be a big deal. It's just going to be like a little tithe. That's how much money we're going to have.
And let's remember with what Trump did with having the crypto reserve, right? Aren't the other nations now going to go, we want to do that too? So then what is that going to do? That's going to increase the value even more of all, of all these assets and give there's more decentralization, more freedom, more, ability to for people to look when people are happy and people don't have a thumb on the back of their neck. What's the next thing you want to do? You want to help people, right?
Yep.
You say, well, I got everything I need. Now I want to start doing good. And isn't that where we want to be? This is where we're supposed to be. It's part of, from a spiritual standpoint, that's what we're supposed to create. We're creators. That's what God
Mhm.
made us to be creators. We can't create when you're being brainwashed and poisoned and controlled all the time. So
Yeah.
we are coming towards the end, but I wanted to just flip to another one of your slides
Okay.
and just see if we could, just touch on this a little bit. And I'm going to once again share the screen on this so we could just, move towards here we go. Okay, so now let's move into, that big question. What is, and we've been touching on that, right? What is the cost of not supporting Trump's plan to rebuild American manufacturing? What happens with that?
Well, let's let you start it. You got the information in front of you, and I'll wrap it up after you get done. Go
All
ahead.
right. So first, we're looking at that the U.S. suffers either a financial collapse or
Mhm.
suffers an internal coup, and the world's dream of peace and prosperity dies with it. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Well, we get to get out of the slavery system that we've been in, but there is a caveat I do want to add to that. There's one thing that could keep us from having that happen. You know what it is? This is all being orchestrated by God. God has chosen Donald Trump. He's chosen Elon Musk. And I want to tell you a little quick crazy story that may sound like it's off, but I follow all kinds of stuff. And there's a Hopi prophecy. They didn't have language. They did pictographs. And basically one of them says, the world is on a tipping point. That's where we're at. We're at this moment of crisis. And if we don't wake up, we're going to have a catastrophic event that's going to basically either drive the world into a 10,000-year ice age or cause an extinction event or whatever. But if we wake up, it goes on and on and on. It gets better and better and better. And the line of prosperity just goes up and up and up and up. And then I found a second one just recently, and it blew my mind. I just laughed for 5 minutes. Here's what it was. It's a second petroglyph, and it says, in the time of the crisis of the world, or it doesn't say it, but it's showing that in pictographs, there
Yes.
shall become two leaders that shall come to the world to save it. And the Indians always wear headdresses, right? One of them will be wearing a red headdress. Are you getting an idea here? And the other will be wearing a black headdress. And that black headdress will be in the form of an X. So God ordained Donald Trump. He ordained Musk, and something just happened to solidify the deal. Bing! That bullet goes past Trump's ear, and I guarantee you, he fell to the ground. I did a whole show on all the religious implications of that. When he fell to the ground, when the blood was on his feet and on his face and everything, that is if you go back to the Bible and read it, that's an anointing falling on him to go into the priesthood. So Donald Trump has had his moment where he accepted Jesus. And just a week ago, Musk went to a church and he announced that with all of his wealth, something is missing in his life, and he was dedicating himself to God no matter what it took. So we have, and that petrograph went on to say that the man that had the black headdress was very creative. So there's our technological genius, there's our financial genius, there's our way out of this. So that's all I got to add to what you said. Go on.
Okay. And secondly, eventually the day comes when we useless eaters, right? Because that's what the elites have so
Mhm.
eloquently called us, are no longer needed and we are simply put out of our misery. The end. I
So
mean,
do we believe that?
has it
Well, I
all.
think that 2020 with COVID made us start to believe it. And then I just did a show based on an incredible documentary called The Dimming. And basically it pointed out that those chemtrails are killing the planet. They're causing the plants the soil to have its pH changed so that it becomes 10 times more alkaline than before, killing the planets. and it's putting aluminum nanoparticles in the air that kill plants and kill animals and kill people. And it happens that aluminum is an accelerant. And so it's the basis of all those beautiful fires we've been seeing. And so basically, they're killing us. So they want genocide. And then, I've been at this research for 56 years. And I have a pretty good memory, so something comes to my mind in this vein, and that is Eric Holder, who was the science czar for Barack Obama, a man I have feelings about. And basically, he wrote a book called Ecoscience. And what did it say? He says, I am in favor of causing mass sterilization of the human race as long as it does not affect animals. And so now, if you open your eyes up and you find out why is almost every nation in the world having a catastrophic collapse in population, it's because those guys they call them guys, not women, not something else. Their sperm counts are going down, and basically we're being sterilized. So that brings me to the last comment on this slide, a movie that I saw 20 years ago called V. And these people came to the planet and they were benevolent. They said, we can cure cancer, we can cure diabetes, we can cure heart disease, we can kill it all. And they did. They cured it. And the world was happy. And they left. And what they had done is in those miracle drugs that they gave them, they sterilized them.
Yeah.
They came back 70 years later and the planet was empty. They just took it over. We are in the process of having mass genocide. And those chemtrails, basically, they are the perfect delivery system for any biological disease they want to give us. So, folks, if you think they're not going to kill us, when they get the opportunity, when they get the technology to the right level, if we haven't taken over control by then, we're done. So think of the Georgia Guidestones, 500 million people. Think of the UN, 1 billion people. You better open your eyes up and realize that that is true. So with that, you add anything you want to it.
Well, yeah, and I think, the chemtrails are one part of it, because think of all the other ways that they have delivery systems as well, right? Whether it's in our food, whether it's in our arms, whether it's, right, they're just coming at us from and have been, and hopefully we're going to start to see that diminish, right? That's what we're hoping is now on the rise to save us. But it was interesting. I was in the post office a couple of weeks ago, and it had a big notice about sending aluminum, things with aluminum, and I had to just giggle. I mean, I really wanted to just go hysterical laughing, but really wanted to cry. Oh, okay, so we can't send this through the postal service because it's dangerous, but we could put it into our things that we put in the arm in babies. We could drop it from the sky in chemtrails. We could put God knows how many, heavy metals and things in our food. Like, is anybody awake? Is anybody realizing like how ridiculous? Was I the only person who commented? Now, fortunately, the guy I work with at the post office is very awake like us, and we had a laugh about it, but it really wasn't like a funny laugh. It was just, how much more ironic can you get? Larry, this was great as always, and there's so many topics. I mean, we could just keep doing, every month a different topic and get into this. And you and your team put together such amazing slides that kind of pull it all together. But I want to end to give you an opportunity to talk about your book, because I know how passionate you are about this, and I want people to know where they can get it and how they can get it. And I see you have a QR code too, that people can copy. So go ahead.
I don't make any money on what I do. I mean, I make a little bit off of the sales from the first book, but basically, I had a near-death experience in '68, and I dedicated my life to God. I retired 15 years ago, and I worked 10, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week doing this stuff. And I don't have a channel where I'm monetized. I don't have any commercial advertisers. This is all to get the message out for God. So my first book, the only way I got it out was because a lady who worked for Harrison House said, they'll never publish your book. No major publisher is going to publish a book that tells the truth and puts them in a bad light. But I've got a chain of Christian bookstores, and I'm going to publish it for you. So that's how my first book got out. Well, she's had some financial setbacks and can't do that now. And guess what? Those same big publishers are saying no, they're not going to do it. So I had to basically do this on my own. This book is very important because we now have an opportunity to get back our schools. The first thing Donald Trump did was get rid of the federal education department. So I'm believing with some resources and context that I have available to me that I'm going to be able to get this book to the schools so we can stop the brainwashing of our children. So this book is to basically let you as a parent become informed and teach your children so that when they go to school, they can't be brainwashed. And in the meantime, hopefully we can get this book into the curriculum. So I'm asking you to help me. If you go to the next slide, there's a QR code if you want to donate. And I think there's a QR code on the next one as well. If not, maybe I'll have you roll it back. So this is for the children. No, going up for a second. I don't know if there's a QR code on that one or not.
Sure.
So basically, we've collected $10,690. I need not $13,500 because she came back to me and said, well, your book's a little more complicated than I thought. So I need $14,500. She started the book, but as she says, you ain't going to get it until you pay me every last dime. So I just need anybody who can to help me get this book out, because we're fighting for the souls of our children, and the children will be the next generation. And if we don't get a hold of them, heaven help us. We can do everything right now. We can get freedom back. But if that next generation comes out and they're basically subliminally conditioned to be communist, we've lost. So I'm fighting for the next generation so that we can save this planet. Scrolling up and see if there's another slide. I don't remember. Up. I'm down rather than down.
Oh, okay. No, that's the last one.
That's the last one. Okay, then go up to the QR code.
Yeah.
So,
So everybody,
contribute,
take a shot of this, take a picture of this QR code, share it. This is so important. And I'm thinking too, not only do you want to get this in the hands of the schools, but we just keep growing in the number of people that are homeschooling, and this is a wonderful tool for all those people that are homeschooling, that to have something like this. This is just, a real labor of love that you've done, and we want to make sure that people, and we'll put it in the description box as well, just like your information for people to get in touch that way as well, if especially sometimes some people don't know how to use QR codes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll put it in the description box of this. But I have to tell you, this has been another wonderful interview. You have so much knowledge, and you have such a great way of presenting it to everyone. So we will be doing another one. In fact, I would love, and you'll tell me the timing on this, but I would love to possibly talk about those chemtrails in a show. And I'd love to talk about your book if you could. I mean, you want people to buy it and get the whole thing, but just in terms of maybe some of the points that are in there that people are going to want to have.
If we do that, we probably want to do a shorter show. I don't want to degrade one of these topics. So along the line of what you're saying, I'm right now approaching 2 tracks of information. Lots of people are out there. Hey, guess what? This happened today in the news. Okay, I don't care. That make me any difference. It don't tell me a thing. I need to know what's happened for the last 200 years.
Right.
So what I'm focusing on is 2 principal tracks of information. I'm focusing on what we have to do to save our planet from dying, and what we have to do from saving our country from having a catastrophic financial collapse. So I've already done about 4 shows on climate. So the chemtrail things is just one. And I've got a couple of other shows queued up for the topic that we're talking about today. They go much deeper, but if we're going to go much deeper than this, then we're going to have to do something that you may not want to do. We're going to have to go to an interview that's really heavy in slides, because I need to shock you with pictures. And when we do this stuff on the climate, that absolutely has to have slides, because here's what it comes down to. I can show you pictures of polluted water. I can show you pictures of the oceans dying. I can show you pictures that will evoke emotion that I just can't get out of you.
Oh, a picture's worth 1,000 words. I 100% agree. So we'll change the format up a little bit so that we could really get these
try to do it like 50-50. I'll take a normal presentation I have and try to cut out all but the most important slides. And I'm willing to do that with you, where I got to tell you, I'm not with some people, and here's why. If those of you who are watching out there, I want to give this lady a compliment. Do you see where she took me? Do you see the questions she asked? Do you see the comments that she added? Do you see the value that she added to this conversation? So many of the people who I do presentations with, I won't do them unless I'm allowed to do all slides, because I find that if they ask a question or make a comment, all they're doing is taking us off track, because they have no idea
Thank
kind
you,
of shows
Larry.
with you.
Thank you. And I'm so honored for you to feel that way. And I'm glad that you enjoy these and you feel that you're getting real value and being able to, put
Well,
forth.
hopefully it's the people who are getting value.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
You
it's
may have figured
important
it
that
out by
you're
now, but
getting
I'll kind of
value
know this stuff
because
cold.
yeah, but it's important that you're getting value because the more we're able to do this, the more you're going to want to come back and you're going to want to
Yep.
share that much more
Yep.
information for people to get value. So yeah, it's a win-win. Well,
Well,
anyway,
I want to interject and make a comment
okay.
on the one show that you talked about. I've already done it several times, and I got some feedback from one of the hosts a couple days ago, and it really made me feel pretty good. The person watching it contacted the host and said, "Oh my God," said this was one of the most powerful shows you've ever seen in my life. Do you have any resources where you could get this to Donald Trump? He needs to see this. So that's the caliber of that particular show.
This was another show that you did with a different host or with our show?
Yes, yes,
Oh, great.
I've done it with a different host. So that would be the show that you were originally talking about, and it just so happens that it's one that one of the viewers said it needs to get to Donald Trump. It's so powerful, it's unbelievable. So that's the show we'll do next.
Okay, excellent. All right, good. Well, listen, God bless you. Thank you for being here and for all you do. And we'll see you soon. And thanks everyone for watching. Please like and share. This information is so important to get out there, and we'll see you soon.
Everybody be blessed. Bye bye.
Hi, Elisa V here. Did you know that medical bills are the leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States, accounting for 66.5% of bankruptcies? In fact, in 2022, 17% of adults with healthcare debt either declared bankruptcy or lost their homes due to it. We can all agree that the healthcare system is broken. Well, there is an alternative that I want to tell you about. It is impact health sharing, which Yahoo News is calling the disruptor in the $4.6 trillion healthcare system. With impact health sharing, you can choose the doctors, clinics, and naturopaths that you want with less restrictive guidelines. Medical bills are reduced to their fair market value, and premiums are 30 to 72% cheaper than competitors. Plus, Impact Health incentivizes healthy habits like supplements, gym visits, and therapy. Call 844-275-1056 and use the code MELCARMINE for a free quote today.
Gold and silver